Hey, what's up? It's Comic 95 the Savior, and for this video, I'm going to be talking about something very controversial. I'm going to rant to you guys, and I was just thinking to myself that one of the biggest reasons why everyone's version of Japan is so different is because we all come here for different reasons. We're all from different countries, and I'm like 90% sure I've talked about this before, but so be it. We're going to make another video on the topic. I won't make this as lengthy as I believe the last one may have been, but I will say this. You have to understand that there are people that have come here from really crappy asshole countries, as Trump would say, and for them, any little grain and crumb that Japan gives them, it's like, I don't know, like water from the heavens or something like that. It's just the most magical thing in the world, right? But when you're dealing with people that are from developed first world countries that do not have a shitty background, or that at least have a brain, because I came from a shitty background and I still have a brain, you don't view it that way. And that's where you have the people that have this mentality, oh, be grateful, at least it's not this, at least they didn't do whatever. And there's multiple ways you can see it, right? Like glass half full, glass, half empty type thing. And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes your girl prefer the half empty. But I don't even see it that way. It's like, I'm an optimistic person, believe it or not, in real life. But I also believe in reality too. I am not going to take a situation in which somebody abused and mistreated me and just say to myself, oh, well, they could have done worse. And yeah, that is true. They could have. But do we have to also ignore the fact that what they did was still wrong and or bad? And I'm not talking about any specific situation right now. I'm just talking about in general. Because I notice when you read stuff about Japan, when you watch videos on it, you see people talking in a way where it's like, huh? Where the fuck did you get that mindset from? Whatever. How do you think that after experiencing that or after reading this person's story? That's what you have to say about it. And then it makes sense to me when you see where these people are from, when you know more of their background, when you do a little bit of lurking, a little bit of digging, and it's like, oh, now I see. You came from this country, you came from this background, so you're just grateful for anything. And also keep in mind that influencers are going to have a very different mindset because they're motivated by dollar signs. I never made that video, but I wanted to address somebody that left a comment that was basically implying, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they're basically trying to say that it wasn't a matter of money, but a matter of fear of saying what people don't agree with. That's what I was about to say. That's what she said. And I could not disagree with that more. That's exactly what somebody would say that's getting paid. I promise you, if what you were being asked to agree with was too outlandish and against what you truly, truly believed down inside, I won't even say that. You would turn that on. Let me rephrase that. If money were not on the line, a lot more people would say how they really... That's another video. Making new ideas while I'm talking. People would say how they feel if money wasn't on the line. Most people cannot say no to a paycheck. Money motivates most people, especially on social media. If people know, you can find this content right now. People realize that if you make self-deprecating videos, people watch them. Think about it. When you see videos on your not For You page, your Explore, recommendations, whatever, the homepage of YouTube, you are more than likely at least once a week going to see a video of somebody self-deprecating themselves. It's going to be titled something like, I'm a 60-year-old loser, nobody loves me. I'm a 30-year-old man that's never had pussy. I'm not even lying to you all. Those are literally the titles that people make, right? And I'm not going to lie, I realize, hey, this shit works too. I've made a couple of videos like that. But like I said, now my situation was different. I made a video like that, clickbaity-ish, where I was talking about what somebody actually said about me when I got into the argument with that bitch, the Jamaican hoe from that job that I worked at. But I ain't gonna say her name again. You can watch that video. That's different, okay? I used actual words somebody said towards me. But these people are literally just insulting themselves for the purpose of getting money. Now, if they knew that sharing this deep, dark secret of how they're a 30-year-old virgin, a loser, never had a job, living with mom, whatever, they're not gonna say that. But it's because of money. It's the motivation, right? Well, it's the same mindset here on, on YouTube, especially when you're dealing with Japan. People are not going to say negative things, not because they don't experience them, but because they view things differently because of where they're from, what their background is. And they're so obsessed with Japan for that reason, because they think about how crappy their home life is. And while, yeah, things might be crappy here, but they could be worse, is how their mindset is. Then you also have the other aspect of people not wanting to stop the bag. If you're making your money off of making TikTok videos, bragging about how wonderful and cool Japan is, why the fuck would you want to release something that's going to be negative about Japan? unless you know that it's an agreeable negative topic. I made a video on this topic and I'm not sure when it will be posted, but I talked about how there are certain things that everybody agrees on that we could talk about Japan negatively towards, and then there's other topics that we are not allowed to discuss, and if you talk about them, people drag you for it. For example, it's 100% fine to make videos exaggerating what goes on trains and pretend like every time you get on a train, somebody's filming up your skirt, somebody's rubbing on your breasts. Like, people love those videos, right? But then there's other topics that you cannot complain. You could talk about the work life. Oh, the work culture is so hard. You could talk about that because basically it's a, how can I put it? In that situation, it's technically like a compliment. You're saying that they're hard workers. But I said this before in a few other videos, but did you know that Americans actually work more overtime than Japanese people do? That shocked me too. But anyway, before I get too dragged off into all of this, I'll make separate videos on those topics. Just understand, people see things differently than you do based off of what they've experienced. If you come to Japan after being battered up and abused, you're going to be grateful for a lot of crap. You're going to get into a lot of weird shit here, and you're probably not going to really have the time or the mindset to notice that what's going on around you. You're not going to realize, hey, your employer is actually treating you like trash. Hey, that guy is using you. Hey, she's not really your friend. You're not going to be seeing any of that type of shit because you're busy trying to escape from your problems back at home. If you come here and you are an ugly ass short loser in your home country, and now you have all these options to date girls here just simply in the fact that you're white, well, guess what? You're going to absolutely love it here. Why? Because now you're getting pussy that you didn't get before. Like, I'm just keeping it real. You have a different mindset because your goal is focused. You're focused on something different. You're not seeing Japan for what it really is. Not to say that my version of it has to be yours, but I am just saying. A lot of people refuse to accept and acknowledge reality because they like this fake bubble land that they've created for themselves, where they only focus on what they like, where they only are grateful for what they're getting, and they're willing to ignore everything else. And normally these same people that are, have their heads stuck in the sand and up Japan's ass, you will probably see them come back maybe 15, 20, 30 years later. We'll see. And they'll suddenly be backpedaling on everything. Oh, I was blind. I don't know. Japan changed. Like, no, it didn't change. It was always like this. And the first thing that made me realize this was the people that were so happy about everything. And then as soon as the pandemic happened, all of a sudden now everybody's acting like this is something brand new. Yeah, Japan's changed. They're treating foreigners like trash. Yeah, people are avoiding sitting next. Interesting that you only noticed this now when it got extreme. But when this was going on before, these are the same people that were downplaying it. It doesn't exist. Libtard, even though I'm not liberal. But, like, things like that. And so it's like, it's funny to me that it's funny and interesting. People see what they want to see, and they don't see what they don't want to see. And that's also another reason why you need to be careful who you listen to. If you are also from a poor country yourself, maybe you will find that you relate to these other people more. Maybe you don't care about racism. Maybe you don't care about, being treated unfairly. Maybe you are just grateful for the little bit of crumbs that you have, from Japan. If that's all you want, okay, cool. But my mindset is like this. Why would I be okay with accepting less than what my country gives them? They don't get treated like that when it comes to the U.S. People think very highly of the Japanese, actually. And many people from America want to visit Japan. In fact, most Americans will make self-deprecating remarks about themselves as Americans and the U.S. in order to uplift and praise Japan. And don't get me wrong, I've seen them do the same thing in return for me. Most people in Japan also like America. But I am just saying, I do find it interesting how, unlike in the U.S., where I can critique the U.S. to an American and talk about how much more wonderful Japan is, and they can agree, you cannot do that in Japan. If you try to critique Japan and talk about how much more wonderful the US is, you will have 10 Japanese people jump on your back and let you know you are fucking wrong, and they'll agree with you and then find other things that America does fucked up, right? They can't take criticism. They do not like critique. They do not like being judged. They do not like Japan being looked at in a negative light, which is also the reason why they do not bother to correct you all on those little stereotypes that are untrue about them. For example, like the overwork thing, the cleanliness thing, like everybody pretending like they're fucking Marie Kondo and whatnot, which is also interesting too. I said this before, but her name is, Mariko or something like that. She's allowed to change her name, and they understand that. She made her name Marie in order to sound more Western American, basically, right? And so I just find it interesting. She can use an old white lady middle name and nobody judges it. It's cool. Everybody respects that and calls her by her name. But if you as a foreigner, you want to use a Japanese name while living in Japan, people don't like that. And so it's just, and not even just use a different name. She literally goes by that name. She literally writes that name. That's her name on her social media accounts and everything. And they understand that and they respect that's what she wants to be called. But meanwhile, if you do the same thing, everyone wants to insist on calling you by your like government name, even if they butcher it. So that's another story though. But yeah, I find it interesting how, based off of where you live, where you come from, that is the way not only that you're going to see Japan, but you're going to insist that people lower their standards because yours are very low. Instead of realizing that, okay, I came from a crappy ass place, so my standards are low, and really I should be aiming for higher and more. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be grateful to live in their country when I come from a much better country, and my country's people don't have that mindset where it's like, be grateful that you're even in America. We don't say that, treat Japanese people that way. Should we fucking roll out the red carpet for them hoes? So, and look, I'm not expecting to do that for me per se, but it's like, I'm sorry, but if somebody's treating me bad at a convenience store, I'm going to bring it to their attention. If I'm dealing with racism and trying to rent a place, which I'll be honest with you, haven't had that happen, I'm going to bring it to their attention. Like, I'm going to speak up on it. I'm going to talk about it on social media. I'm not going to just sit back and be like, oh, well, at least I got my green card. I'm just grateful to have a visa. That's never going to be me. Let me also add to clarify this. I'm not trying to have the quote unquote ugly American attitude where I feel like the world has to revolve around me, even though people like to quickly jump to that. But rather, I'm saying there's a difference between, being modest and humble and grateful and thankful. And then there's a difference between allowing people to abuse you underneath the pretense of be grateful that at least we're allowing you to exist on our land type of thing. Which is also silly when you consider the fact that Japan is also stolen land, very similar to the US, but that's not even the conversation I'm trying to have here. We're not going into that. I'm just simply saying there's a difference between somebody expecting the red carpet royal treatment and someone expecting to be treated like a fucking human being. And the reason why I feel like it's just for me to comment on this is because Americans don't treat Japanese people like that. So for me to be expecting the exact same treatment that I would give to them in my home country, I think is pretty damn fair and reasonable. No one's asking for red carpet treatment to be treated like a princess or a king or a queen or something like that upon coming to Japan. We're just asking to be treated like human beings. And it's crazy how there seems to be arguably just as much, if not more, pushback from fellow foreigners than there is from the Japanese community. In fact, I even think about how I kind of mentioned this before, that Spanish streamer situation. The only reason why Japanese people even know about the incident that took place on that train and why there's a push for him to get kicked out of Japan and either jailed or banned or whatever is solely because of foreigners. We're literally our own worst enemy. Anytime that something happens, there's a whole bunch of, white Uncle Toms that jump to the rescue. And instantly their goal is simply to try to act Japanese by policing foreigners. And they think that what they're doing is helping. But really all they're doing is reinforcing the stereotype that foreigners have these bad personalities, don't follow the rules, aren't mannerable. They literally reinforce stereotypes. And this will be a separate video. But the funny thing is, there's so much of an obsession of foreigners trying to call out what country did it. I said this before, but again, I'll make another video on this topic where it's like, oh, I bet they were an American or must have been the Chinese. The Japanese don't make a difference between you all. You're all foreigners in their eyes. Sure, technically fine, they separate Chinese versus other foreigners. But for the most part, people that dislike foreigners, they're going to dislike all of them. They're not going to care whether you're from Canada or whether you're from Italy. They don't care if you're American or if you're from New Zealand. It doesn't make a damn difference. They hate all of you. So really all you're doing is helping push the notion that they should hate you too. And people have this false idea that if you speak the language or you know don't nobody give a shit about that. That's just moving the goalposts. And as a black person, I can tell you that firsthand from personal experience. A lot of black people feel that way too. And don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging you to be ignorant, but I've heard plenty of times that people have the mindset of, well, if you just do this, you just get a job, you just get this career, you dress this way, you act this way, white people won't hate you, won't be racist towards you. And don't get me wrong, I do think that it's good to help make our image look good, to not act stereotypical, gang banger, gangster, whatever type hood, personality. I get that and I agree with that. But hear me out. The idea that you not using ebonics and you dressing in suit and tie is suddenly going to get rid of racism is a damn joke and a lie. And it's the same thing in Japan. The idea that if you just speak the language, if you just learn the culture, if you just do these 5 things, everyone will love, or most people will love and accept you. These problems will disappear. Just follow the rules. Well, I can assure you, I've never streamed. I've never done any of this crazy shit that you guys see on Twitter on a bus or train. And I've had several, when I say several, I mean several hundred encounters with Japanese people. I can't even count the number, in which people have done rude, disrespectful things to me simply because I was a foreigner and I existed in that same train car as them. I wasn't talking, I wasn't laughing, I wasn't on the phone, I wasn't streaming, I wasn't doing full face makeup, I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking. But you know who I did see doing these things? Japanese people. And once again, did I see a Japanese person come up to them, confront them, get in their face, hit them, touch their belongings, tell them to stop what they're doing? Nope. In fact, the only time I've ever seen that happen was on social media, in which I saw a one-off case of a Japanese guy that apparently was complaining about some Japanese woman that was sitting with her legs crossed, which is ironic because he was man-spreading. But that's a whole nother story. So, anyway, my point is just simply this. I'm not telling you to walk in rude and demanding. I'm saying what we're asking for is to be treated like humans. This false idea that if you just keep your head down and don't say anything and bow and say sorry nonstop, that everyone's going to love and accept you and welcome you is a load of crap. People are just racist, not xenophobic, racist. People just flat out don't like you because you're not Japanese. That's the reality. And they will use the excuse, oh, it's because you don't follow the rules. Oh, it's because you don't speak Japanese, as a front to cover up what the real issue is. And as a black person, I see the same stuff in the U.S. Am I saying that all white people are racist? No. But I am saying that as a black person, I don't need to watch a YouTube video of somebody breaking this down and explaining it to me because I've lived it my whole life. I know how these fallacious, false arguments work, how these made-up excuses for being a racist and bad behavior works. Move the goalposts. Make up a new excuse. Well, I'm only treating you this way because you're not doing this, because you look this way, because you said, well, then what is your excuse for the people that don't do that? Because like I said before, 90%, if not higher, of the foreigners that you see aren't doing any of that stuff. They're following the rules. They're following the rules better than the average Japanese person is. But you don't hear about that. Instead, people can't wait to highlight the one-off person that makes a mistake, or God forbid, that purposefully chooses to break the rules and do something obnoxious. People focus on that person instead. Why? Because that's what racists love to do. They love finding the one-off person. Like I said, from a black perspective, in my day-to-day life, I don't run around dodging bullets and gangbangers and drug dealers and the other. But if you let people that are racist tell it to you, you have every reason to fear every single black person that ever comes around you, because this is all they do. You would believe that that's true based off of what you're being told, what you're seeing in the media, etc. Well, the same thing goes for in Japan. If all they ever highlight are foreigners breaking the rules, foreigners being rude, foreigners being loud, obnoxious, etc., and you never see Japanese people doing that, what are you going to think? I've never seen anybody get mad at Japanese people, young or old, choosing to sit and block the doors, choosing to eat and drink stinky, smelly food on buses and trains. Never seen it happen before. It does not get media attention. It does not go viral on Twitter. It does not make it to the news. But when foreigners do it, it does. So what message does that send? What does that make people think? It makes people think they're all this way. So anyway, back to the video. All I'm trying to say is that this idea that you should put up with abuse and then people will love you, they'll accept you, you'll do just fine, or blaming it on lack of language ability or lack of cultural understanding is exactly what a racist wants to do. Gaslight you, manipulate you, move the goalposts. So, okay, seriously, back to the video. And I'm not going to pretend like your mindset of not giving a damn makes you right. I'm just saying to people that are watching this content, reading this content, please understand that they're giving you a desperate poverty mindset of viewing Japan I wouldn't say Stockholm syndrome, but like, you know, people that have been abused or that come from poor backgrounds, like where you don't expect much because you've never had much. It's that sort of mindset. Not to say that I'm coming in with this princess mentality per se, but it's like, no, you being okay with eating shit does not mean I have to eat shit with you. I can say, hey, instead of shit, I at least like a hot dog or something. Like, I have the right to want that. And it shouldn't be looking like I have a fucking third eye or some shit. Like, people get mad at you for having, I won't even say high standards, but higher standards for wanting a decent, equal life. And of course, granted, I'm not dumb. Every country is always going to treat their own people better than foreigners. I'm not expected to be treated better than them. I won't even say necessarily 100% equal, but I mean at least somewhat there. That we are literally like fucking fourth class citizens in Japan, is what I'm trying to say. So that's where my complaint is. I'm not going to play dumb with you. I understand if you're going to choose between an American applicant and a Japanese applicant in Japan, why would you choose an American over a Japanese person? Unless you can pay them less, or unless they have a specific skill that Japanese person does not. I'm going to choose the Japanese person. I understand that. It's no brainer. Even in the US, if I'm going to open up a restaurant that serves Japanese food, would you rather hire a white girl or a Japanese girl? A black girl or a Japanese? You're going to hire the Japanese girl. Why? Because the assumption is going to be she knows the food and the taste that it should have from her own culture. Now, you could be very much indeed wrong. That black girl might be on some Chef Ramsay shit and actually knows how to cook Japanese food. Meanwhile, Japanese girl, she don't know how to cook shit. She could roll a sushi roll or something for you. Like, you see what I'm trying to say? So sure, there's those anomalies, one-off exceptions to the rule. But I'm saying, generally speaking, I get some differences to a certain degree. But yeah, that's it. I'm getting all rambly, ranty off on that. But yeah, it's interesting. And I say this because, again, no specific reason, but just like thinking like over the years, and I guess more recently, just reading articles, reading stuff in the news, reading forums, and like seeing people have arguments about stuff where I'm like, how can you be okay with that? How can you try to downplay that? How can you try to pretend like this is okay? And why is it that whenever something happens, there is always this immediate comparison to the US? And it's like, we don't do that when we have stuff happen. It does not cross our mind like, well, you know, these happen, but hey, at least we didn't get a bomb dropped on us. At least nobody got stabbed in the head today. Like, our mindset isn't like that. So why is that the case for you? If you really feel like your country is superior and better, you don't have to talk negatively about another one. You know what the US doesn't do? We don't spend all day sitting around talking about how much better we are than Mexico or how much better we are than Jamaica. No offense to the Mexicans and Jamaicans watching this. I had to add another country so Jamaicans don't think I'm just bullying them. Okay, I'm talking people in general. And I'm giving Mexico in particular as an example because of the proximity. Not for any specific reason. But anyway, so it's like, you see what I'm trying to say? There's no need to compare. Let me use a better example, something that we can all be neutral on. China. Does the US sit around all day and try to like brainwash you all into comparing yourselves to the Chinese? No, we don't. In fact, we even recognize that they're better than us at some stuff. We make jokes. For example, when they show out the mathletes, like winners or whatever, that the US one was at first place and all of the people that won were Chinese Americans. And so again, like, see, we could laugh at shit like that. I don't understand, like, why are you all trying so hard to give it? And that's how you know you're lying to yourself. If you truly believe that Japan is so great, why you keep talking about it? like you don't do that. When you are the greatest, when you are the best, you ain't got to talk about other people negatively. You could just talk about yourself. You ain't even got to talk about yourself. Other people do it for you. And it's interesting, like I said before, that the people that talk that shit, they're using our platforms, American platforms, to talk the shit that they talk. With the exception being Line, but how many Americans use Line? Only weebs use it. So anyway, back on subject. Yeah. Just watch you listen to, watch you take advice from, and take it with a grain of salt. And just understand. The reason why they think everything's so wonderful, and it's like, why is this person saying everything's bad? This person saying everything's wonderful. It's not even just a matter of different mindset. It's a matter of coming from a different background. You came from shit, you're going to expect shit. And when you get just a little bit better than shit, you're going to be like, wow, everything's so wonderful. Just saying. I mean, think about it. If you came from a physically abusive relationship and you move on to one that's verbally abusive, now they're both bad and they're both wrong, and I hate to compare, but let's just keep it real. The average person would much rather have somebody yell at them than physically beat on you. For the people that say, oh, that's not true. Okay, let's give you an example that we can agree on. That same example, but in prison. Would you rather have a prison guard yell at you or a prison guard beat you with a baton? Would you rather have a military sergeant, whatever person, yell at you until you drop down and give them 20? Or do you want them to get physical with you when you fuck things up and bitch slap you? Okay, That's what I thought. I ain't talking about y'all freaks that got kinks. Okay, we talking about normal people here. I know what some of y'all answers are gonna be. I don't want to hear them. Say that for your mama. But yeah, it irritates me so much. But I have to like just get used to it and be like, you know what? These people are just trolling, and they're weebs, and they're also people that are desperate from crappy countries that they don't understand that they're being treated like shit. And they're mad at you for complaining because they think about what their background is like, what their country is like. And so the idea and the thought of you, complaining, it upsets. Just like for me, for example, when people see people that are living in Japan, living their life, have complaints, it pisses them off no matter what country they're from, including the US. And they'll never say this, but the reason being is a lot of the people that are consuming this content, they have no money. They're living in mommy's basement. They don't have a good job. They don't have friends. They don't have a partner. They don't have a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And with that said, they're mad that they're seeing somebody that has that money, has that opportunity, is going to college in Japan, is working in Japan, is married, does have kids, everything that they wish they had, and you have the audacity to complain about it. That's how they feel. It is no different than you or I listening to like some millionaire, billionaire talking about how they're depressed, or hearing about some multi-millionaire, billionaire committing suicide. It's like, sure, on one hand, like, you feel bad for them, but on the other hand, it's kind of make you angry. It's like, or like when you hear people say, oh, money can't buy happiness. My nigga, yes the fuck it could. Like, do you see what I'm trying to say? Like, it pisses you off because you don't have money. So hearing somebody with money say, oh, money's not important, doesn't mean anything. Okay, then give me your money then. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm done, y'all. I'm done. Anyway, what you listen to, everybody's opinion doesn't really matter. As harsh as that sounds, it's the truth. It doesn't really. I don't need an opinion from somebody that came from a crappy country that's grateful to have breadcrumbs, because I didn't come from a crappy country, and I'm not going to be grateful to have breadcrumbs ever. Simple as that. And if it sounds too cocky, whatever, then say it to the Japanese too. Because you best believe they're not going to have fun going to your country if it's crappy. And they will let other people know how crappy it was. In fact, the only time they like going to crappy countries is when they're going to take pictures of your said crappy country in order to put it on their Tinder account in order to get fucking sex. Yeah. The amount of times I've seen people that have profile pictures of them volunteering in Africa is disturbing. Especially when I consider the fact it's like, why are you showing yourself doing charity work with children in a poor country, and you're putting their photos on a dating profile that you are using in order to trick women into sleeping with you? Would you be okay with your son or daughter being used to advertise that? I don't even know why that is allowed on dating apps. So I'm done. Just understand. There's a lot of unwanted, unnecessary opinions out there. A lot of people that refuse to accept reality. A lot of people that see reality, but they don't want you to see reality, and they're mad that you're crushing their little dream. And also, last thing, for a lot of these people, they can't come to the U.S. I know you're like, oh, who cares about me? A lot of people do, including you. They can't get to the U.S. with these, but it's much easier to get a visa to come somewhere like Japan. So for them, they want to convince themselves that where they're at is better than where they really want to be at, because either they cannot go there, or they haven't had the chance to go there yet. So they're talking negatively about it to make themselves feel better. They're pretending like they don't want it, don't like it. Look at it this way. People pretending like Cardi B is a better rapper than Nicki Minaj. Come on, y'all. And look, I ain't gonna lie. I liked music from both of them, okay? But are we gonna sit here and pretend, even if Cardi wrote all of her own raps, she has never written a single one that I would ever say was better than anything that Nicki has written. And I say that with certainty, great certainty, okay? Just keeping it real. But when people don't like you, they will say that everyone's better than you, or that people are at least at your level. Same thing like with Drake. This whole situation is going on with Kendrick. Oh, look, I love Kendrick Lamar. I had no idea this beef was going to happen. But let me just say this. Are we really going to pretend like Kendrick is a better rapper than Drake? Now, hold on. This is a different conversation. I know y'all like, girl, what? Hold on. Before I lose y'all, hear me out. I agree, skill-wise, Kendrick is better. But who makes better songs? And you could argue ghostwriter this, ghostwriter that. Okay. But even with ghostwriters, who makes better music? Nicki. I'm just saying. And I'm not saying she uses ghostwriters. I'm talking about Cardi. Even with her using them, allegedly. The same thing is said for Kendrick. When he drops music, y'all don't really give a shit about it. People that really like rap, sure. But who actually makes those sales? I'm just saying. Consistently either. Not a one-off year, not a 3-year run. I mean consistently. And it wasn't based on hate. People didn't flock to Drake because they hated someone else. He came out and was his own artist, was his own thing. He became bigger than the person that found him, which is Lil Wayne. I love Lil Wayne. But I'm just keeping it real. Is Drake truly more talented than him? Not necessarily. No, I think if they were to truly have like a battle rap, yeah, Kendrick will win. But the reality is, who makes better music? Whose music are people actually buying? It don't matter if you're better if nobody wants to buy your shit. Nobody wants to go to your concert. If people aren't buying your tickets, they're not buying your merchandise, they're not buying your CDs, they're not selling out, they're not going crazy over you, you don't have the followers, I'm sorry. I can't see you as being better. Like, you're not number one. I'm sorry. Okay, this is off topic and not the purpose in this video, but since I already started entertaining this, let me also add, there's a difference between people supporting and liking you because of your art and people supporting and fake liking you because you're currently hating on the person that's on the top, whether that's deserved or not. You see it all the time in the rap world where people are only streaming artists and buying singles from them or albums even because there's a diss involved. But when that diss is gone, think of Pusha T, think of Remy Ma, think of Meg Thee Stallion, and I'd even argue Kendrick. It dies down. People don't really care. They're not checking for their music anymore. They only love the fact that there is a beef going on and people want to see the person at the top fall. I'm not including that. Sure, you could sell out a concert after you just got through, dissing a rapper or doing a performance at a Super Bowl. I understand all of that stuff. But that's all a whole nother topic. Just wanted to explain. Yeah, but that's fake love. There's a difference. So anyway, that's not the purpose of this video. Just have to throw that in there. Back to the video. But when people don't like you, it's often because of jealousy, right? The same situation. People wanted to see both Drake and Nicki fall because they were both at the top of their game. And when you're that much of a hater, which there's lots of people that are haters in denial, what happens? You cling on to whatever second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th best because you don't want them to have that spot. And the same thing with the US. Japan is a wonderful place in its own right. But a lot of people just hate America. And so for them, it makes them feel better to exaggerate and pretend Japan is something that it is not. I love Japan. I like living there. I don't hate it. But I can also be honest and acknowledge and admit there are issues with it. And there are things that I most certainly love way more in America than I do in Japan. And lots of things. In fact, Japan has so many problems. I vowed to never give up my U.S. citizenship. I went to Japan with the opposite mindset. My goal was to immediately give up my U.S. citizenship as soon as possible. That is no longer my plan. It never will be. I love the country. I would cry if I found out that I was trapped there. That's all I have to say to that. My mindset has completely changed. And you're entitled to like whatever you want. You can choose to like Japan, but I will say this, I challenge that. If you have the opportunity to live in both countries as an adult and with money, not under mommy's roof, I'm not talking to you weeb, Lolita chicks that, never got to experience being a real adult in your respective home country, never worked a real career, had your own car, own house, 25 and up. I'm not talking to you because you cannot answer that question. You cannot possibly come to the U.S. and live your life as a real adult and in Japan and come to the conclusion that Japan is better. You just can't. You just can't. You really can't. There are aspects to like about Japan more than the U.S. But when you're talking about the overall picture, you lying like a mug. Like, I recently came back to the U.S. And it feels so weird. Because it's like, I could do this. This existed. And sure, a lot of things have changed. It's been nearly 10 years. But at the same time, it's like, no, look, I didn't see these things because I wasn't truly an adult yet. I didn't know about these things. Or I knew about these things, but I didn't appreciate these things or enjoy these things because I was so young. Now, being damn near 30 years old, my mindset has completely changed. I view it very differently. After going through crap in Japan, my mindset is different. I'm grateful for more things here in the U.S. than I was before I left. Likewise, being here has also made me grateful for some other things that I didn't have to deal with when I was in Japan. So I could be balanced. I don't have to pretend like everything in America is wonderful. There's no problems. Japan does nothing better. That is definitely not what I'm saying. I can give a laundry list of what the U.S. needs to do that Japan does do, and I can do the same thing in reverse, vice versa. So, not the thing to take away from this, but all I want to say, I'm making this video long again. All I want to say is just, to wrap this all up. Understand, people are going to come from different places based off of literally where they come from. You can't try to get advice on something from somebody that cannot relate to you. This is not to say to not read other people's posts, watch their content, but just understand when you are listening to them talk on a topic, they are speaking from a place of poverty and hurt and rejection and abuse. They cannot understand your complaints. You complaining about how you don't want to deal with a place still practicing Jim Crow laws and shit, their brain can't comprehend it because they're like, well, where I come from, only whites are allowed to do this, so I'm grateful that at least I could walk on the same sidewalk with a Japanese person. Like, that's their mindset. They can't understand why you're complaining. They're like, okay, like there's like 6 million ramen restaurants. Why do you have to eat at that one? So what? They say you can't eat there. It's not racist. It's their shop. Like, that's their mindset, right? Now, as an American, that just sounds crazy in the mud. And the thing is, for the people who don't make up excuses for it, Japan is supposed to be a first world country too. So it's like, why do we, and Japan knows this, why do we lower the bar and like give them baby standards where they get to like get away with stuff that other countries can't do? If the UK, the US, Canada, or Australia did that type of shit, it would be in the news. A black man was turned away from an Outback steakhouse. I don't know. What the fuck do Aussie people eat? I never heard about y'all food before, but whatever white people eat. If that were to ever happen, that would be a news story. But in Japan, just another day in Tokyo. Like, it's nothing new. And shoot, Tokyo is being generous. Let's talk about the rest of Japan. So, my best piece of advice is to not waste your time. Just ignore the comments, ignore the videos. You ain't gotta argue back and forth with these people. Just be like, wow, I'd hate to have such low standards like you. I mean, I think about it like this. For women that understand how to date, when you read a post from a woman that's like, I don't mind, I'll work and I'll clean. I'd rather somebody pay half the bills than have to pay 100% by myself. Like, when you see posts like that, sure, you could try to reason with the person and go back and forth with them and help them see it the way that you do. But instead of doing that, just look at it this way. Don't waste your time. Like, why waste your time and try to explain common sense to an idiot? I do that because I get paid, okay? But you're not getting paid for that when you're just typing a comment, which is why I stopped typing comments. Every once in a while, you can sucker me into it. But 9 times out of 10, I just screenshot your dumb comment. I either talk shit about you on Patreon, or I'm going to make a video about it later on. Because, like, why am I doing this for free? You're wasting your time. Sure, you might be able to give them some information and help them out. But instead, let them come to the realization on their own. Let that chick have her fun playing her masculine role and things not working out eventually, and then let her find the information on her own. Because I used to be one of them dumb bitches. I was one of those girls that was like, I don't need to pay. I'll pay for both of us. I had no idea that my generosity was a F-boy magnet, and that men were thinking, wow, this bitch is young and dumb as fuck and she rich. I wasn't rich. I'm using student loan money. I'm just thinking I'm trying to impress him and show him that I really like him, so I'm going to pay for both of us. Little did I know, he's expecting to pay, and me not letting him pay guaranteed that I was going to get used. Now, are all men like that? No, but most are. They are not normally going to be grateful that you paid. Instead, they're going to see it as, oh, she's masculine. Oh, she's easy. I didn't allow him to show me his intentions. Had to learn that lesson myself, because my mindset back then was like, I would miss out on dating a cute guy because I wanted to pay for my meal. It sounds stupid to me. Like, I could think of so many other dumb things that I did back when I was younger. And some people are old and dumb. There's people in their 30s and 40s. And a lot of times it's also a matter of desperation too. Just like I was saying, people from poor countries, where it's like you recognize that you're older, you have kids, etc. You don't look the best. So you're like, yeah, I don't mind working. I'll do 50-50. Yeah, I'll do 70-30 or whatever percentage. I can't do percentages, y'all. But you know what I'm trying to say. Like, they will lower their own standard, which makes sense. But they want you to lower yours too. They will want to argue with you. And it's like, don't even waste your time. Just know that when you read crazy shit like that, they don't know no better. They dumb. They dumb it in the motherfucker. Like, they don't realize that they are literally asking for nothing and not even getting nothing. Like, that's exactly what's going on right now. Because the fact that you want me to be grateful to be in this country, like, huh? Like, and just in case you didn't realize, we always talk about this, Japan is stolen land too. So you might want to look up the history of how they got there. So okay, I'm done. Believe what you want, think what you want, do what you want, like what you want. I'm not gonna waste my time arguing with you. You're happy to get nothing. Okay, 2 claps for you, ho. Like, I'm not gonna go back and forth with you. I just roll my eyes when I read you all's comments like, here we go again. And the only thing that I do hate is that when people see this stuff, like Japanese people, they pat themselves on the back and be like, yeah, see, this foreigner gets it. They should expect nothing from us. They don't deserve shit. That's the only thing that I hate about it. But like, otherwise, I don't really give a fuck. I'm like, yeah, we don't need people like you here anyway. Like, shut up. I just pipe down. Like, I'd rather these people just not say nothing. If you're happy with them giving you breadcrumbs, eat your breadcrumbs and shut the fuck up. Like, we don't need you to be leaving comments and making posts and videos and how wonderful everything is and how these foreigners have it all wrong, and they be going in. They get really mad when you complain about stuff. I mean, they would try their hardest to justify it. I read a post the other day, and I'm gonna leave it at that, and then I promise I'm done, where somebody was talking about how their partner, because, you know, people love saying partner when they're older and they've been in a relationship for, or even if it's not with that one person, if they've been dating for a long time. And it's funny because, like, again, people try to downplay marriage, but they don't like using the word boyfriend, girlfriend, because they recognize that you do need to be saying, I'm married, my husband, my wife, etc. So since they can't say my husband and or my wife, they say my partner, which I'll give them props. At least they're not lying and saying that this is their spouse when they're not legally married. But I do so just find it interesting. It's like, my partner. Girl, just say my boyfriend. But anyway, back on subject. This person got into a fight, right? And people were so quick in the comment section to accuse the boyfriend of starting the fight, being in the wrong, causing chaos and problems in Japan. I'm like, we don't know what happened. And based on the story that was left, it actually sounds like he was the one that got hurt for no reason, not whoever the Japanese person involved was. But I was like, you know what? They white. I'ma stay out of this shit. I don't see them jumping in to defend us. It ain't my business. I'm just saying. I don't even think they're from my country. I don't know what country they're from. But anyway, you know, and look, I ain't even trying to make it a color thing. I'm just keeping it real. That anytime that we say stuff or something happens to us, you know, so immediately assume you're guilty, you did X, Y, and Z, oh, black people, whatever. But that's like, interesting. When they do it, a very different reaction. Not to mention that, well, sure, the comments weren't saying like, oh, usual suspects, etc. They did have the same mindset where it's like, oh, foreigner, you must be in the wrong immediately. And it's like, sure, granted, foreigners can and do cause problems. But do Japanese people not do this when they go abroad? Not to mention, it's a false equivalency, whatever you want to call it, to assume, or whatever assumption, that just because you don't hear about things, they don't happen. If you do research, you will find there are stories that exist about Japanese people breaking the law, doing reckless stuff, from recording people to hurting people, all type of stuff. They do stuff like that overseas too. We just don't hear about it. The news picks and chooses what it will talk about. Just saying. So anyway, that mindset where it's like, because you're a foreigner, you're instantly guilty in the situation. And look, I'm a black person. This ain't nothing new to me. But I just find it interesting how the same problems exist when you go other places. It's just a matter of being a minority. And for me, you know, being a freaking triple minority, I know that better than anybody. I'm black. I'm a woman. And what else was I supposed to say? I forgot what I was. But y'all get what I'm trying to say. Oh, I'm black, I'm a woman, and I'm a foreigner, so I'm not from the country. So you have all of these things, and it's like, I'm used to this. I've seen this a million times. I know what's going on. But it's like, for other groups, they need a lot more convincing. And see, things are only racist and bad when it personally affects them. If it's affecting somebody else, oh, it must be their fault. If it's affecting somebody else, oh, they're just a liberal, they're just crying or whatever. Like, they're just, it's all these like little excuses, right? And so it's interesting to me that it's like, they don't have that mindset where they think about, okay, why did this happen to them? Why does this person have a black eye? Like, did they start the fight or did the other person do it? Because, like, that's a weird situation. I don't want to, like, give all their business, but to summarize it, they were saying that they went out somewhere, came back completely, like, you know, just broken, like, bruised up, beat up, and this wasn't a small guy, it was a big white guy. And so I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, the person went into more detail, which made it very clear that it did not appear that this was like an accident or that their partner caused this, because they appear to have had no defensive, like, you know, not no defensive, but no, you know, no wounds or marks showing that they attempted to fight back. It looked like somebody was just beating on them. So there's a possibility their partner could have just blacked out and been drunk, and a bunch of like guys came by and decided, hey, we're gonna mess around with this dude. And again, because he is a foreigner, people have decided he's automatically guilty. Whatever you're accusing Japanese stuff, that didn't happen. The interesting thing is too, for some reason, I just don't think the police would have ignored that if this was the reverse. If it were a Japanese person that woke up all beat and bruised up and said, hey, this foreigner did this to me, I'm pretty sure that person will be in jail right now. But we're not going to go there. Not my business. I'm going to turn the blind eye like how y'all do. So, back on subject. I want to say like how y'all do, but more so, you know, this video ain't for that. I've talked about these type of topics before. So, it really upsets me though, because like, I don't know what they were like, so I'm not going to like pretend and make this narrative for them. But if they're anything like most people, it normally takes a wake up, no pun intended, a wake up moment like that for you to personally get hurt in some way, whether it be physically, emotionally, or financially, for you to finally wake up, smell the coffee, and realize, Japan is not this utopia that people have made it out to be, including myself. And when I say myself, I mean yourself. So, and it literally seems to be the case, because it's like if you try to get people to understand a moment before that, everybody's blind, nobody understands, nobody knows. Oh, really? Japan's bad? Oh no, you must have it wrong. You must have did something. But then when something happens to you, then suddenly everybody's like, oh my god, I have to warn everyone, stay away from this country, don't drive, don't do this, don't date here, don't go to this bar, don't marry a Japanese girl. But prior to that, all of you are singing the same tune and talking about how wonderful everything is and how you only date Japanese women and how, you know, you would never want to marry a white cow. And I've read all type of crazy shit, alright, over the years. And then it's so funny seeing that night and day switch. As soon as you go through a fuck up, then all of a sudden that you wake up and you realize all of the horrible things. Same thing like what people live in. And don't get me wrong, I actually saw a documentary of a guy who actually like had I think it was a lengthy sentence in prison, or at least a few years. And like, I think either he said after he gets out, he's still planning to stay there, or that he was released and he was still staying there. I can't remember what the story was, but long story short, yeah, like that kind of interested me. I was like, wow, the place that you came from is so bad that even after experiencing imprisonment in Japan, you still want to be there. Because I'm sorry, look, if I ever did something that's going to cause me to go to jail, I don't think I want to be in Japan anymore. So, I'm done. I'm done. Getting too rambly with this. I'll talk about this later on in another video, but just understand. Everybody has a different mindset based on what they've experienced. What they've experienced, where they come from, who they've dated, where they've worked, etc. It all molds what you're willing to put up with, what you're willing to accept. If all you've ever had was crap happen to you, all you ever received was trash, was abuse, was a low salary, was bad quality food, was crappy quality clothes, you will worship everything. If this is the first country you've been to, you've never traveled, if you're not used to people complimenting and praising you because you're an average to ugly looking person, well then guess what? You're going to eat that shit up and feel like it's the most wonderful place in the world. Because yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of does feel good to get the celebrity like stares. Look, I ain't even gonna lie to you, I kind of do miss that myself. It feels good if people looking at you and staring at you and like, oh, you're so cute. Who doesn't like that, okay? I get it. But people get lost in it and get so obsessed with, like, they crave that aspect of it, and then it gets to the point where you can't even have real conversations because they just shut everything down. It's like, oh, well, it's not that bad. Actually, I really like this, and actually, America is like, okay, sure. So, I'm through, you guys. I don't know where I'm going with this. I just, like, felt the need to, like, record and talk about that in that moment after, like, reading some posts recently. So, yeah, that's all for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment down below, subscribe, and all of my social media links are in the comment section down below. And yeah, I hope you watch another video. Bye.